Congratulations, you've been accepted to work as the night guard of an old train station. The station is still in operation, but it's falling apart. Paint peels from the walls, the roof leaks whenever it rains, and the benches creak like they're about to collapse. Most nights, only a handful of tired workers take the midnight train back into the city. It should have been the easiest job in the world. But on nights like this, when the storm raged and the wind howled through the cracks in the windows, the station felt less like a workplace and more like a tomb. The clock struck 12. The storm outside roared so loud that the entire building seemed to vibrate. That's when the last train rolled into the station. Its screeching brakes echoed, bouncing off the empty platforms. I grabbed my umbrella and stepped out to the platform, watching two passengers board, a woman with a broken umbrella and a man in a factory uniform, his face pale and exhausted. I thought nothing of it until the train pulled away. For just a moment, I glimpsed the inside of the carriage through the rain-streaked windows. It was empty. Not a single soul sat inside. Back in the office, I tried to shake it off. Maybe I'd imagined it. Maybe the storm had blurred my vision. But then I noticed the logbook. The station kept an old record book of late-night passengers, mostly for safety. When I opened it, my heart nearly stopped. 3 names were written there in wet, black ink. The woman, the factory worker, and the third was my name. I hadn't touched the pen. I hadn't signed anything. And yet, there it was, my full name, written neatly, as if someone was already expecting me. The rain hammered harder. The lights above flickered and buzzed. That's when I heard it. At the far end of the platform, whispers. Dozens of voices, all speaking at once, blending with the sound of the storm. At first I thought passengers had arrived late, waiting in the shadows. But when I turned the corner, the benches were empty. No one was there, yet the whispers didn't stop. They slid through the rain, through the cracks in the walls, curling around me like smoke. And in those whispers, I heard my own name. Suddenly, the ancient speakers above crackled to life. They hadn't worked in years. Attention, an additional train is arriving. Destination, last stop. My blood ran cold. There was no such train. There had never been an additional train. But then the rails began to tremble. The ground beneath my boots shook as headlights cut through the rain. Out of the storm, a black locomotive crawled into the station. It was old, impossibly old, its body scarred with rust, its windows dark as coal. The air grew icy as its doors slid open with a metallic groan. Inside, pale faces stared back at me, silent, unblinking. Dozens of them, packed shoulder to shoulder. And then, a figure stepped off the train. The conductor, tall, his uniform soaked and torn, skin pale as death. He walked slowly across the platform, each step echoing against the tiles. And then, he handed me a ticket. I looked down. My name was printed on it. Seat, last carriage. I dropped it immediately, but it clung to my palm as if it were part of my skin. I couldn't let go. The conductor leaned close. His breath smelled like rust and rot. And with a voice that shook my bones, he whispered, "The train always leaves with the right number of passengers." I ran. I sprinted across the platform, heart pounding, desperate for the exit. But the gates were locked. Chains wrapped around them tight, as if they hadn't been opened in years. Behind me, the passengers in the train pressed their faces to the windows. Their skin pale, their eyes empty, their mouths moving in perfect unison. Tap, tap, tap. They were pointing at me. The storm swallowed the station. The lights went out, plunging everything into darkness. And when they flickered back on, I was no longer on the platform. I was sitting inside the train. The air was thick with the smell of mold and iron. Shadowy figures sat on either side of me, clutching faded, torn tickets. Every single one of them turned their heads slowly and stared. I looked at the ticket in my hand. The ink bled across the paper, shifting into words. Final destination, your soul. The train screeched, sparks flying outside the windows. We weren't heading toward the city. We weren't heading anywhere marked on any map. The conductor's voice echoed through the carriage, low and final. Next stop, eternity. And as the train roared into the darkness, I realized I had just boarded a journey with no return.